The stormy night was silent inside the mansion, except for the sound of Daniel Carter's heavy breathing. He sat in his wheelchair, staring at his own reflection in the tall glass window. His jaw tightened, and his fists clenched on the wooden armrests. Daniel wasn't really paralyzed, but to the world, that was the story. Why would a millionaire like him fake something so cruel? Because for years, Daniel had been betrayed, friends who only loved his money, relatives who saw him as a bank, and women who claimed to love him until the diamonds and luxury gifts stopped coming. He had grown tired, bitter, and suspicious of everyone. This time, he wanted to know who would stay if he had nothing left to give. So he devised a test. He would pretend to be paralyzed after a staged car accident. If his girlfriend, Melissa, truly loved him, she would never abandon him. If she didn't, well, he would finally know the truth. Melissa arrived the next morning, her designer heels clicking across the marble floor. She was beautiful, glamorous, and admired by many. At first, she cried when she saw him in the wheelchair. But within days, Daniel noticed her tears weren't for his pain, they were for the inconvenience. She started making excuses to avoid being around him, complaining about how hard her life had suddenly become. You know, Daniel, she sighed one evening, scrolling through her phone while he sat quietly, I didn't sign up to be a nurse. This is depressing. Her words stabbed him like knives. He forced a smile, saying nothing, but deep inside, he already knew the answer to the question that haunted him. Melissa's love wasn't real. And then came her betrayal. Daniel overheard her one night on the phone. She was laughing with her friends, saying, he's basically useless now. I'm not wasting my best years pushing around a cripple in a wheelchair. Once I secure some of his assets, I'm gone. Daniel's heart shattered. Still, he stayed silent, determined to see how far her mask would go. But fate had other plans for him. One afternoon, while sitting alone in the garden, Daniel's wheelchair got stuck on uneven ground. He tried to push, but the wheels wouldn't budge. Minutes passed, frustration boiling inside him. Suddenly, a soft voice broke the silence. Do you need help, sir? It was Elena, the maid. She was young but carried an air of quiet strength, her dark hair tied back simply, her clothes neat but plain. Unlike Melissa, Elena never spoke much. She worked in the background, polishing floors, carrying trays, cleaning rooms. Daniel had barely noticed her before. But that day, she noticed him with gentle care. She freed his chair, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and asked softly, "Are you okay?" It was the first time in weeks someone had asked him that question without hidden motives. And for the first time in months, Daniel felt seen. Days turned into weeks. Elena would bring him meals with a smile, talk to him about little things, share stories of her childhood. She came from a poor family and worked hard to support her younger siblings. Life had been cruel to her too, yet she carried no bitterness. Whenever Melissa complained or disappeared for parties, Elena was there. She adjusted his blanket on cold nights, read books aloud to him, and even joked gently to make him laugh. Daniel began to see something rare, genuine kindness. One evening, while Melissa was out shopping, Elena found Daniel sitting alone in the library. His head was bowed, and his eyes looked heavy with loneliness. You know, Elena said softly, sitting across from him, people think strength is about walking tall or having power. But real strength is in how you carry pain without letting it turn your heart dark. Her words broke the walls Daniel had built around his soul. For the first time, he felt his heart stir with hope. But the challenge was far from over. Melissa grew crueler, snapping at Elena and accusing her of trying too hard to impress. One night, during dinner, Melissa scoffed at Elena for serving soup too slowly. You're useless, Melissa sneered. Just like him. The insult hit Daniel harder than the car accident ever could. He clenched his fists under the table, wanting to rise from his chair and tell the truth, but he stayed silent. Later, Elena found him crying quietly in the dark. Without a word, she knelt beside him, holding his trembling hand. That night, Daniel realized something powerful. The woman he truly needed was not the one he had tested, but the one life had unexpectedly placed beside him. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Melissa stormed into his study, shouting, "Daniel, I can't live like this anymore. I deserve better. Either you give me access to your accounts, or I'm leaving." Daniel looked at her for a long, silent moment. Then, he stood up. Melissa's jaw dropped. What are you doing? Elena gasped from the doorway. Daniel straightened his back, his eyes cold as ice. I was never paralyzed, he said firmly. I wanted to see who truly loved me, and now I know. Melissa's face twisted with fury. She cursed, grabbed her purse, and stormed out of the mansion without looking back. Silence fell. Elena stared at Daniel, her eyes wide with shock. You could walk this whole time. Yes, Daniel admitted softly. And I'm sorry, Elena. You didn't deserve to be caught in this game. But, through all of this, you showed me something I'd forgotten existed, kindness without asking for anything in return. Elena's lips trembled. She wanted to be angry, to call him cruel. But her heart softened when she saw the tears in his eyes. Sir, she whispered, sometimes God breaks us so we can see who's meant to heal us. From that day forward, Daniel and Elena's bond grew. He freed her from her maid duties, encouraged her to study, and supported her.